I want to help you to change how you relate to the experience of being afraid for the rest of your life. Think of this as just one step on the staircase towards getting to a better place with your relationship to fear. Typically, when we ask the question of how do I overcome fear, we're coming at it from a place of wanting to avoid fear. How can I calm myself down? How can I avoid situations that bring this fear out? How can I basically not experience fear is the question that we're asking, really. But this is the wrong place to be coming from. This is a losing battle because you're going to be experiencing fear for as long as you live. This is just a core aspect of just human conditioning. So rather than trying to remove some aspect of who we are, which then actually furthers the problem, we have to learn how to allow this part of ourselves to simply arise. Recently did a video on developing unconditional friendliness towards yourself. I'd recommend checking that out for even more. But we don't want to even relate to fear in a way where we see it as a problem. We actually want to even just remove this entire paradigm that it's a problem to be fixed. And this goes for any emotion or interior psychological part of yourself. The second you start viewing this as like some problem that needs to be solved, something that has to be removed, you actually start to withdraw your consciousness from that area, from that aspect of yourself more and more and more. Really, when we begin to turn away from any aspect of our experience, we start creating emotional black holes. So instead of asking basically, how can I avoid situations that bring out fear? How can I, avoid the fear? How can I just not feel this? It's basically more about, can I open to this feeling? Can I inquire into this feeling? Can I just feel this feeling? Can I give it mindful attention? Can I learn to just be fully present with this experience as I feel it in my body and get to know what is really happening there? Humans don't really investigate their emotional experience very much. We think we know what emotions are, we actually don't. We don't apply much attention to our subjective experience. Instead, we're actually just always distracted, trying to escape, focused on the external world, which is not a bad thing, helps us to survive. But at one point in our species development, we have to develop more emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence so that we can just be well, so we can survive in ways that are functional and healthy. So of course, the intention to overcome fear is fine, as long as this is not a subtle way of rejecting the part of ourself that is afraid. I want you to view the part of you that is afraid as a child, not as a grown adult, but as an actual child who's afraid. When a child is afraid, you don't lock it in a closet or push it down or suppress it or tell it to shut up or anything like that. Instead, you have to actually meet it with presence, with attention, with care, with empathy, with an open heart, with just being grounded and present with the child. And through this approach, this is how you get that part of you to begin to open up more. So like I said, whenever we turn away from any aspect of our experience, we create an emotional black hole. And real healing begins when we are able to bring presence to our experience, into basically the places where we have been absent. And a good place to recognize this is by paying attention to the body. You'll actually recognize that in some parts of your body, you cannot be present in them. You don't feel connected to certain parts of your body. Most people feel like they are a floating head on a stick. They're very disconnected from their body because that's where a lot of the emotional experience takes place. They're disconnected from the felt experience, right? Because that's where pain takes place. So if we're able to shut that off, repress it, avoid it, we avoid pain. But we also avoid a lot of the value that comes with being connected to oneself. You can't really be authentic. You can't really relate to your experience in any kind of meaningful way when you're cut off from the emotional dimension of it, because there's so much important information in the form of feeling that you're simply missing out on by always avoiding it. So notice your body. Recognize that you can be present maybe a little bit in your hand, but in your gut, no. And maybe in some places of your gut, yes, but maybe on the left side, no. You like all the way on the side of your body, at your hip, no. But maybe, right here, but not here. You'll notice that there's not this like full presence. Maybe your heart feels contracted and tense rather than like open. Maybe you don't even know what the hell I'm talking about when I'm saying getting into your body. Maybe your whole body just kind of feels numb. Right? So there's a lot of things to really, in a sense, do in order to allow your body to feel like a more vital, alive, and healthy place. So I'm going to say some general stuff. Some is just eating a very clean diet. Really giving your body what it needs. Exercise, stretch, yoga. Allow your body to be flexible. Getting your needs met essentially in a healthy way. Connecting with healthy people. Not over-giving to situations to the point where you're drained and exhausted. So also looking at your energy levels. So that basically when you're interacting with something, you're sensitive to the energy that you get from it. Because there's always an energetic transaction between you and whatever you give your attention to. You're sensitive to the energy that you get from a person, a book, food, a place, etc., a video. So a core aspect of really beginning to change how you relate to fear is meditation, like I talked about in a bunch of my videos. It's impossible really without this. Because meditation, what it is just observing yourself. It's just observing what's happening in the present, really feeling into it, not resisting it, allowing it to arise and pass. Allowing unconditional friendliness to begin to cultivate within your own mind. Beginning to feel at home with every single part of yourself, including the scared part. We typically view the mind as like this one entity, but that's not actually a very accurate way to view the mind. I'd recommend looking into parts work, internal family systems, Richard Schwartz. Right? It's a very powerful psychotherapeutic model. I recommend a book called No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. It's incredible. So by reading that book, even Bringing Your Shadow Out of the Dark by Robert Augustus Masters, checking out a lot of those books on my book list, and then really beginning to do a lot of meditation, you're slowly over time going to allow yourself to reconnect to these parts of you, to inhabit your body more and more and more. By regulating the nervous system, this also helps you to do it quite a lot more. If you're always in survival, fight, flight, freeze, you're always going to feel numb. You're always going to be avoiding. You're always going to be attacking. You can't just sit with yourself. There's always going to be some kind of thing that's pulling you away from yourself or just numbing you to your experience. And I want to clear up a potential misconception about meditation right now. So meditation is an unplugging from the world. It's not a withdrawing from the world permanently to go live on the top of a mountain by yourself for the rest of your life. It's not actually an avoidance of the world. If someone's doing it to avoid the world, this is an error. Meditation is just a reconnection to yourself, in the same way how sleep is necessary. Right? Or it's basically a way to give energy back to yourself as well. We can view it as some kind of form of rest. It's giving yourself the necessary attention that you actually need so that your psychological emotional system is lubricated and it can function, just like how when you put oil in the car. So meditation is not about withdrawing from the world. It's basically helping you to discover presence, awareness, and a much more steadier and more discerning way of being, a much more connected way of being, rather than the chaos of endless thoughts and feelings. You're able to really be grounded in the flow of life, in everything that you are. So it's literally the exact opposite of withdrawing from the world. It's actually a deeper embrace of the world. Because as you practice over and over and over again for many years at a time, your ability to really be present in the world increases. And really, I want you to view this as like a skill. It's not something that's going to happen in a week. It's like you really need a sincere heart to actually see any like improvements, to really cultivate a very profound relationship to yourself. There needs to be a lot of sincerity on your part. You can't half-ass it. Kind of like weightlifting. Right? If you want to get very jacked, you're going to have to go to the gym a lot. Even just 1 year of weightlifting isn't actually a lot of weightlifting. You're not actually going to get very big after 1 year of weightlifting. It's going to take like 3, 4, 5 to get very big. Typically, to begin to like really master weightlifting, it's going to take a while. And we're talking about mastering yourself here, mastering your own psychological, emotional system. This is going to take a long time, many, many years. This isn't going to end after one meditation session or one therapy session or a week or a month or a year. This is the rest of your life. This is relating to the experience of being a human until you die. This is a very long-term thing that we're talking about here. This is the actual solution to the problem. This is a deep problem, really. This is like how we relate to our emotions and wanting to do that in a way where we do not always suffer. This is a big thing, actually. This isn't a tiny thing. So in order to solve this deep structural problem within our psychological emotional system, we need a long-term solution. So instead of always avoiding your experience of yourself, you have to come back into connection with yourself. It's very simple, actually, in the sense that the logic is simple, but the practice of it is hard because our conditioning goes so against this. Our conditioning wants to avoid fear. It doesn't want the experience of fear. But the wanting here, the preference, ends up being a problem. Just allow the part of you that is afraid to fully emerge, to fully arise, and reconnect to it in the same way that you would connect to your own child. Really visualize if you had your own newborn baby and you were holding it in your arms, the degree of nurture and just care that you have for that child and the amount of attention that you would pour into that child, that degree of attention, pour that into yourself. Pour that into the inner child wounds that exist within your own psychological, emotional system. Because a lot of our sort of wounds, we repress them, we avoid them, we don't like them, they're painful, they're parts of us that we don't like. And this preference keeps them repressed. And we have to learn to embrace and accept the full spectrum of who we are so that it can arise in a safe container. We have to stop judging our experience. Stop holding it up to certain standards. If I feel like this, it's bad. If I feel like this, like, I'm doing something wrong. This, right? Just allowing everything to arise fully, totally organically, totally naturally. Letting go of control. Letting go of tension in the body. Letting go of contraction in the body. And then allowing it to pass. Stop getting so involved in it all the time. Stop getting so involved in the feeling. Stop digging your hand in there and swishing it around and trying to control and manipulate it. Really just taking a step back, allowing it to exist, and then allowing it to pass away. We're really talking about creating a safe space for you to exist in, the full spectrum of who you are to exist in, every part of you to exist in. So that instead of habitually repressing yourself every single day, instead of that, you can actually just really connect to yourself. You can allow every part of you to have a place in your life. You can allow every single part of you to provide value to your life. You can heal the parts of you that hold on to a bunch of burdens and then allow them to return to their natural, open, and valuable state, rather than always in the closed state, the contracted state, the afraid state. And then when fears arise, when parts of you that are afraid arise, because they will forever, the way that you relate to it when it comes up is one of connection to it, feeling it, applying mindful attention to the sensations, holding it with care, having unconditional friendliness for everything that arises inside of you, rather than how do I overcome it, but it's really what the question is under that is, how do I avoid it? How do I get rid of this? Letting go of seeing it as a problem, instead viewing it as something valuable, viewing it as a part of you that just needs attention and love and care. So we're really swapping up how we are just relating to fear. This is actually the root solution to this problem. There's a lot of ways to go about this. I've mentioned a few, like regulating the nervous system, somatic therapy, meditation, making the body an alive and vital place to inhabit. It's hard to be in the body if you're always poisoning it with, unhealthy stuff. There's a lot more. Do some Google searches, right? I have a free book list. Check it out. It's got a bunch of therapy and healing books. The Body Keeps the Score, Trauma and the Unbound Body, No Bad Parts, Bringing Your Shadow Out of the Dark, A Way of Being by Carl Rogers. Bunch of stuff on there, bunch of useful resources on there. Very cheap. It's extremely cheap. Other than that, you can apply to work with me one-to-one. If you're very sincere about that, I trust that you'll be able to find the link by yourself. Take it easy.